Now we have with us experts on the panel. We also have with us top diplomats and former ambassadors. Joining us on the broadcast is Ambassador Deepak Vora, former diplomat, and Ambassador Suresh K. Goyal. A very warm welcome to the both of you. Gentlemen, we're going to talk about G20. Deepak Vora and News9 have constantly been talking about News9 as well, about ASEAN, I beg your pardon, and the East Asia Summit. But do stay on with us, gentlemen, because let's quickly listen into what Janet Yellen and several other stakeholders had to say after they touched down in the national capital. What did they have to say? We're going to break apart those reactions as well. So I'm going to quickly get the ball rolling and bring in Ambassador Vora in on this one. Ambassador Vora, we just heard Janet Yellen talk about how the restoration of global finance is going to be, a key and hot topic. If the IMF's MD is and her reaction is anything to go by, 3/4 of the global growth, as per IMF, will be with the emerging economies. But before all of that, and I also have with me, a transcript of the press gaggle by Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre and the NSA Jake Sullivan aboard Air Force One on their way to Ramstein Air Base in Germany, where President Biden is supposed to take a little halt and then embark towards New Delhi. What do you think is going to be one of the most important topics to talk about? There is, of course, the China issue. There is, of course, the financial stability issue. There is, of course, the issue of global trade and investment. There is, of course, the issue of defense technology, jet deals, MQ-9 Reaper drones, 5G, 6G, and of course, let's not forget the Black Sea Grain Initiative. That is something, New Delhi is being pipped to be the venue where it might just be revived. What, according to you, is going to be one of the key topics that is going to be discussed? What are you anticipating? It's going to be a dinner with Joe Biden and Prime Minister Modi, the second meet in just 3 months.
Thank you very much. Always a pleasure, sir, to be with you on your channel. You are amazing, you yourself, and to learn from you, plus the other senior people who will be on your panel, whose knowledge is much greater than mine. Where I am at the moment in New York, the time is 03:41 in the morning, so if I fall asleep, please wake me up. The weather is 23 degrees Celsius and the barometer is falling, which means there's likely to be rain in a little while. Now, in 2023, this character called Joe Biden is obsessed with defeating Russia in Ukraine. India, on the other hand, wants peace and dialogue. That is one area in which perhaps the best definition would be we have agreed to disagree. Why is India interested in America and vice versa? You talked about Narendra Modi's path-breaking visit in June 2023 to the United States. That is still being talked about. Why this mutual interest? What are the areas of convergence and divergence? I won't go into the details. Professor Google will tell you everything about it. But there are n number of bilateral agreements and bilateral visits and bilateral conclaves. The most important factor is the trust factor. Sir, we've traversed a rocky trail. You know this. At one time, we were defined as estranged democracies. But the best definition of the new US-India relationship in 2023 is the catch line of the old Virginia Slims advertisement of the 1970s, when it was introduced as a slim, thin cigarette for women. And there was an image I still remember of a young lady who was smoking. And then it said, "You've come a long way, baby," which means that was the liberation of the American women. So we've made very clever bets on each other. There are changing global relationships. There's this talk of a new world order, whatever that means. Basically, it means that today, India and the United States have many more points of convergence than they do in terms of disagreement. And where there are disagreements, we are able to manage them. So the bilateral relationship seems to grow and grow like the roots of the banyan tree that becomes so strong that if someone were to cut down the tree, the roots would sustain the rump and it would rise again. So for the United States, India is a synonym for integrity. We are a big market, no question. We have the ability to absorb high technology, no question. IT, we are the supreme global power, no question about that. The United States remains the ultimate dream for hundreds of millions of Indians. I don't know a single Indian family that doesn't have a relative or a cousin or a 94th relative who's in the United States. We have 2 kids, both live in the US. I'm visiting them. So there is nothing that really should divide us except our perceptions of how international relations have to be managed. Let me just conclude by saying that America has rediscovered India. India was always very friendly with the United States, but America now understands where the future lies. America, welcome home to India.
Well, absolutely. A great precursor to that meeting that's going to happen in the evening as well, Ambassador Vora. And, I'm just going to take that pertinent point that you made of how these two nations have postured themselves when it comes to the Russia-Ukraine war. Ambassador Suresh K. Goyal with us also on the broadcast. Ambassador Goyal, Ambassador Vora spoke about how Biden is hell-bent on defeating Putin. On the other hand, Prime Minister Modi, on all these global summits, from ASEAN to the East Asia Summit to the Congress, the US Congress, he goes and says this is not an era of war. We must strive towards peace. How do these two nations that are being said have intensified their political and diplomatic dialogue and their relationship, their ties? I mean, we're talking about jet engine technology, MQ-9 Reaper drones, backing each other financially. But will we be able to see each other eye to eye when we're talking about the Ukraine war? Because that is going to be one of the hot topics on the table, this G20.
Kabir, thank you very much for letting me be on this show. You see the danger of being on the same panel as Ambassador Deepak Vora is, that by the time he finishes, he has done all the issues. And then other panelists have to grapple with what to say. That's a problem of being in company with the giants. And therefore, give me a second to really think of what I should say in addition to what Deepak Vora has said. All right, Ukraine. You mentioned two issues. Ukraine, that is the Black Sea deal. And let me do Ukraine first. I think both USA and India know what each other's position is. And there is no possibility of those positions coming close at all. Ambassador Jaishankar Minister Jaishankar has already said that it's a European problem. Why do you want us to really get into a European problem? And I think he's very right. I don't think that President Biden and Prime Minister Modi, knowing each other's positions on these issues, will really spend too much of time on this. They will leave it to their number twos and the other people who know enough and who know what can be done. I think the meeting between the two this time is going to be really on more strategic issues. And those strategic issues will not be just what kind of defense deals, what kind of technology transfer, engines, this and that. All those are sorted out. And I don't think that there is anything more that can be done about them. What is important, however, here is that both India, USA, and the other countries in the world and in Southeast Asia and Indo-Pacific, they have one dragon in the China shop, and that dragon has become increasingly muscular, is increasingly trying to change the world order according to what he thinks should be done. And in that world order, the other countries have no place of their choice on how they should be actually working on their economies, etc., etc. Number two, that dragon in the China shop is trying to basically introduce economic colonization once again by using the debt diplomacy. And now, to add to the debt diplomacy, the world is talking about debt restructuring by IMF and World Bank, and most of the money which comes to these countries, poor countries, because of this debt restructuring and supported by G20, etc., most of the money will go to China. Should G20, I think the issue that the two should really grapple with also is, should this restructuring of debt lead to increasing benefits for China? I don't think that should be done. So there has to be sufficient amount of insurance built into any kind of economic packaging that the benefit actually goes to the countries which have been hurt rather than China, which actually hurt them. That is number two. Number three, you have seen recently what China has done to the territorial claims. Almost the entire region is up in the arms. The problem is ASEAN countries, other countries in Southeast Asia, they want to have peace in the region, but they do not want to have peace at the cost of having to deal with China through military conflict. They don't have the capacity to deal in the military conflict. And for any of these things, they depend upon either the USA or Europe or India to take China on militarily. Last point in the same series of my small elements. China knows very well that the USA is very far off in Pacific. The only country in the region which can take on China is India. And therefore, China is rather dreadful when India comes closer to the USA in a strategic kind of an embrace. And that questions, that challenges China. So that is a kind of map that we are talking about. In that kind of a map, the conversations between the two are going to be how to build this coalition in Southeast Asia, to ensure that our order, global order, does not get disrupted to the extent that we do not have any potential, not to grow, but even to survive. The point on that is, I think, one platform, the only one platform I can think of which can work in this capacity is G20. Even though China is there, but China can be contained on that platform like it happened this time. China knew that they cannot get their way through on G20 this time, and therefore she chose not to come.
And it seems like the Prime Minister is also cornering China on all these global summits as well.